everything is working out about the way it should. And again, another home run, I think, to say the least, on the new Iconic gear. Thanks for taking so much time with me today. Amazing to see. I think we're going to do another one of these in a little while, month or two, another sneak preview of something that's going to come out. We'll leave that as a bit of a teaser. All right, again, Brad is back. He is here. We're talking a little more Brian's. We did hint last time that there was another launch coming down along the way, and today we're going to talk about the new Eclipse gloves.
Yes, we are. Seems just like yesterday we were talking about Iconic, and here we are back again.
Exactly. Yeah, I know, definitely. So obviously the first thing is, what is it?
Well, I mean, to be honest, we've had so much success with our two brake angles that we have, and those brake angles traditionally have been what is now currently our Iconic, but was the genetic before that,
Yep.
and then our optic brake angle. But what we never had is we didn't have a brake angle that closely resembled that what some companies call a 580, what other companies call a 90 degree, what
Mm-hmm.
we are now calling our 45 degree, and that is the new Eclipse catch glove. For a visual, which is sometimes a little bit hard to do, but
Mm-hmm.
this is actually a single T version, which is what comes stock. But we also do offer it with a double T, which I have as well. But it's that over closure that closes all the way across, great seal. And again, this is just something that's not the same as either our Iconic brake or our optic brake.
Mm-hmm. I think the one thing I do notice about that one, and I've seen them, I've had them on my hands as well. I do think they feel very comfortable. But the one thing that sort of does stand out to me a little bit is that bit of an offsetting on the T where it's not really at the brake, it's sort of more to the finger side.
Correct. And that really ensures that there's nothing to obstruct with a really ease and complete closure of the glove. And as you can see with this glove, and it also works with our double T version, but there is absolutely nothing
Mm-hmm.
to to restrict that complete closure. To show you a double T version, the double T version does still have one in the middle, but it has the other one offset. But again, as well, there is
Yeah.
no obstruction at all. It completely closes and overlaps with ease. And the one thing for me is I have really small hands, and with that over closure, the glove feels that much bigger on your hand, and that's where our game ready fit as well. This glove will be offered with intermediate internals, which would be ideally what I would use to try to really hold my hand over that brake. But with our game ready and our ease break in, even for a guy like me with small mitts, it would surprise me how easy that glove closes, and how I can still get that complete closure when, again, I've got small mitts. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I don't have those longer fingers to get all the way over that curl. But again, that's a testament to our break-in process at the factory and how we send those gloves out.
Yeah, certainly. Just the way everything goes together. I know
Mm.
the couple that we have, put my hand in right away, and very smooth. And even sometimes you get a glove that might even feel a little bit stiff, and this isn't the case in those, but just putting your hand in, you get a real sense of the just sort of the glide over that you have. So everything even just sort of feels, you can feel the way it's closing, as opposed to anything where something might jam up or something might sort of bind in the middle. If we're looking at that glove and even things with the shape, are there just some hidden benefits that a glove that sits on that angle kind of give us?
I think with brake angles, it's more of a preference thing more than anything else. I don't believe that any brake angle offers a distinct advantage over another brake angle. But depending on how you hold your glove and how you play the game, there are certainly goaltenders that tend to gravitate towards that brake angle. They find it easier to, whether it be to handle the stick, to wrap the glove around the stick. When I'm playing with it and I have it open, and it feels big, it feels like I have a bigger catch glove than a legal catch glove. I don't, because it's legal,
Yeah,
like
that's
our
right.
Iconic and our Optic is. It's the exact same circumference. but it does feel bigger on my hand, which maybe helps me in the mental side of the game. I don't know, but I'm not, my favorite break angle of ours is the iconic. I've always been a
Hmm.
genetic guy. And I haven't gravitated away from that with this glove, but I certainly enjoyed using it, and it does feel like it takes up a little bit more space when I got my hand up for a small guy in net.
Well, we want to believe taking up spaces,
Yep.
that's that's the part of the name of the game at least.
Yep.
And so not always the key thing, not always the number one factor when we're looking at the success of a particular, product within the brand, but how have say maybe some of your pro guys responded, or some of the guys directly that you deal with, the higher level guys? Are we seeing a few guys switching, or guys looking to that to try it out?
I'll use Colin Delia as a perfect example of a guy he was a traditional heritage guy. And so he was still using our heritage glove. And that's a pretty extreme change
Hmm.
from our, an older traditional
Genetic
style
too,
glove.
basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he went to literally within minutes after he tried it on, he was like, "This is the best glove I've ever put on my hand." He's he's worn it all year. So that was an example of a pro guy that maybe you would feel would be actually a kind of a bigger leap. But to be honest with you, with when it was released, it was a little bit late for me to get it out to the pro guys this past season to really get them into it for the current season. It will be a little bit more interesting to see because we'll get them more out there to our pro guys. I've had an incredible amount of interest from our NCAA junior level goaltenders that because they're a little bit more tied into social media too. So seeing it
Yeah.
launch and all that stuff has created that buzz, and then getting them into stores, I believe starting next week with inventory, that's going to really help where people are actually going to be able. We did do that soft launch where we sent out fit stock to some stores where you had one just for people to try on in store. But when that inventory gets on the shelf and people are able to try on some of those traditional brand 580 and 90-degree angles and then compare it to our glove, we're pretty excited to be able to kind of offer that to some goaltenders that we didn't have that to offer them before.
Right. I think one thing I do like specifically is this seems more like it's designed, it's sort of its own design, its own glove. It's sort of spiritually capturing the some of the elements that those upright over closures gloves have, but there isn't like where you just go, oh, this is a Brian's 580. Like it doesn't really share most of the same elements other than that the way the close works and the way that break angle does.
Correct. And that's why we're not calling it that. The best way to phrase it is kind of like how I've said it's our version of it, which
Hmm.
again, we're calling our 45, but everything else about it is what you love about Brian's gloves. When you talk about the quality, Canadian built, getting the advantage of our A-top dial system, you can get the best possible fit on the back and on the wrist. And now having that in the new 45-degree version, again, you now have three different break angle options to get that great Brian's quality built in North America. And then with our dial system, it really is giving just about any goaltender an option that they'll love with our catch glove. I just prepared a couple of slides which from our catalog where you can see some different angles on the catch glove here. You can see it from the front angle, the side, and the back. And if you do go to our website, you'll notice that we now have gone three-dimensional with our renderings as well when you're customizing the gloves, which is really cool. It's new to us this last year. We just added that with our different lines. So you can really get these full views that you see here when you're customizing your colors. It does have the one-piece cuff a very wide open cuff, so the mobility on the glove and floating cuff on the inside with the dial system really gets you to be able to get that nice and dialed in on the back of your wrist, offering everything that we've always offered in catch gloves, but just a new break angle that we haven't offered before. What I don't want to get lost only on the catch glove because we did introduce a blocker to go with the Eclipse. And again, the Eclipse line is a standalone glove and blocker line. There's no pad to go with it, obviously. But with the blocker, we wanted to continue to offer a more traditional fit. And what I mean by that is we have kind of gone to a mode where with the Iconic and the Optic, we've thinned out the profiles, gone with higher density foams, and then offer the Bri-Core on the face to reduce the weight and to lighten it up. And then with this fit, it has a little bit more of that traditional feel, but we were able to mix up the foams that we use in it so it isn't as thin with the blocker face, but still the overall weight and balance of the blocker is very much on par with both the Optic and the Iconic blockers. It's got a very beefy sidewall and it's very rigid, firm, stays at that 90-degree angle. And again, a very wide open cup on the blocker. So mobility is great, not restricted at all. I'm going to throw back to my main look here so I can show you the blocker. And what I'm talking about with the openness of that cuff, you can see how wide open it is. And when you're using it, your ability to be able to get that full
Yeah.
mobility with that wide open, but you still have the dial system to get you dialed in at the wrist, depending on how tight you want it. It does not have the adjustable fingers, like our icon, it's similar to our Iconic line. But what you can see is you can see that it's not as thin. It's still a pretty thin blocker board, but it's not
Yeah.
as thin as our Iconic and our Optic. But then the other thing I wanted to show you is that rigidity and the bulk, and that's high density foam there for that sidewall. It does not flare out at all. I can't flare that out. It stays rigid, stays in that 90-degree angle. So it's really great. Also, when we're in that situation where we're trying to channel the stuff forward, it's
Yep.
nice to have that rigid sidewall to channel that puck forward the way we want it to.
I definitely didn't want to sort of sleep on the blocker because I know there were a couple of little differences there. It's not just a
And
glove; it's a whole pair.
And I want to say from a personal level, the Eclipse is actually my favorite blocker in our line now. As I mentioned to you, I'm an Iconic break angle guy for my
Yeah.
catch glove. I always have been. And I love the new Iconic blocker. It's really light. It's got phenomenal pop off of it. But something about this blocker when I started using this when I first got my demos in, I really fell in love with it and I've stuck with it ever since. So I like this blocker the best out of our three. I feel like the balance is right where it needs to be. It feels like home for me, a kind of
Okay.
that more traditional fit. Like it feels like it has a little bit more bulk to it, but without being heavier. We're so focused on the glove being a new break angle for us and everything else, but we didn't want to just, you know, say, hey, and we've also got a blocker. We really wanted
Yes.
to offer something a little bit different than our other two blockers, just like the glove is a little different than our other two catch gloves. So it really is a nice option for people to try out and see how they feel it in comparison, not just to the other brands, but also to what they've traditionally got used to with the two blockers that have been in our lines.
Yeah. And no pad on this line. So graphic wise, it's versatility wise for making some color choices, but it's not overly dramatic in either direction. So it works in well whether you're using the Iconic, whether you're using the Optic.
So going back to that topic and that you can see here in the slides, we were very intentional with our design of the graphic. So you don't have to go full custom to make this match whatever it is you're wearing. And that can be in our lines and it can be in somebody else's lines as well. Everybody makes great gear. I never throw any of the other brands under the bus. And everybody has preferences. And there might be some goaltenders out there that, again, have never worn our glove and blocker before,
Hmm.
really try this on and feel like this is the best thing for them, but they love their, CCM pads or they love their Bauer pads. And it's just something that they, like I mentioned with me about feeling at home in gear, but they can go and get our catch glove and blocker and do a colorway that looks great with what they're already wearing. As everybody knows, Brian's, we spend a lot of time on our stock graphic. We do not just generally slightly evolve our graphics
You're
and
not just
slap it on our
drawing
new
lines.
products. I mean, I can tell you it's a long process. It's a months long process of us internally kicking stuff around between our design team. And with this, we wanted to make sure that even though it's very simple, it has some versatility and you can make it look good with anything. And that kind of goes to our, just to our foundation at Brian's of being the custom company. And that's looking at it a way when we came out with a new glove and blocker that we could come up with a stock graphic that will go with anything and or as close to it as possible. And I think Rio knocked it out of the park with good versatility, but a very basic graphic that will match and we know look good, play good as far as goaltenders. It's very
That's
important that we
right.
look good in that. And I think that you can accomplish that with the stock graphic on the Eclipse.
Well, that's amazing. Uh, keep up the good work. Keep coming up with new and innovative and fun designs and the things that goalies want to use. Brad, thanks again for joining me today. I'm sure this is going to be a very successful launch.